Guys, I finally got my LMT son of a digger. Been waiting on this thing forever. Oh man, but now that it's here, you guys seen it out. I'm gonna unbox it on camera, show you guys the truck, and dig into it. You guys may want to see this. Grab some popcorn, it's about to get good. Take a look. This thing looks awesome. Oh, wow. I love the fact that it really does look like the real thing. I mean, the chassis plates, you know, some will like them, some of them won't, but I think I like them. I love the white wheels, the blue, and I've got the GraveDigger stuff, so had to have this to go along with it. I love how everything is beefy. Nice beefy suspension links, beefy axle housings, even though I have seen one of them broken. I forget who it was broken. One of the guys that got them early broke that thing, but this looks awesome. And the drive shafts look to be a smaller version of the Losi Super Baja race, so those hold up pretty darn good. So, oh man, and that wheelie bar already doing its job. Let's go ahead and get the body clips off. They're there and in the front, and flip the body up. Top up, everything is easily accessible. You can pretty much squeeze all kinds of batteries into here. You know, it should hold them good and tight. If you're probably 20-30 feet up and come down on your lid, well, that may not be happy, but it does come with a spare, so that's a good thing there. It's got the Firma Smart ESC, EC5s, 3150 kV motor. That motor's going to move pretty darn good, but at what point do we start getting sensored systems on these things right from the factory? That would be kind of nice. Yeah, this thing is pretty nice. I like the sway bars. I like how that's set up. You can probably change these out. Maybe thicker ones if you want to stiffen it up a little bit, but you can probably change the length just a little bit, but you got to watch. Very nice setup on that. They should not invert because they're not coming back. Good job, Losi. I like that. Wow, this thing looks awesome. I love the deep tread on the tires. These things should hook up on the sand and dirt around my area for sure. Like I said, I like those. I really do. We all know by now that the wheel and tire have a smaller outside diameter than they do the inside. Maybe good for performance, but if you're jumping real high, it leaves a less sidewall to absorb the landings. But if you land off camber, at least you got all that. Did I mention I really like the depth of these V-treads? That's awesome. So I'm pulling things apart, getting a good feel for this, and something catches my eye. The rear hub. Now Losi, they did this with the Super Baja Ray. They actually gave a set of 3 degrees toe-in hubs, and this one here was looking a little bit off. There you go. They've got 3 degrees. It says right there of toe-in at the back. Now what this does is it helps the vehicle have stability when you're driving really fast. If you don't want that, you can actually replace it with these which come with it, which will actually straighten the rear axle. The way they get by with this is it has a 1/8 rear end in it, and it has an actual outdrive dog bones over to here and to here. So this piece right here is actually completely removable. And I'll go ahead and pull that loose and we'll take a look. With this off and out of the way, you can see how it's set up. There's your outdrive axle. Nice 6mm beefy axle too. I mean, it really is. So that's awesome. Let's take a look at something. Bearings. Okay, the bearings seem to have great horizontal separation, and that'll give you a more stable axle. So here's the dog bone, comes right on out. Let's see here, let me turn the light on. There you go. You can actually see the dog bone outdrive cup on the inside. All right, here's the rear axle. And that bearing is actually a 6x12x4. Kind of a small bearing, really, in my opinion, for this, but maybe that horizontal separation will keep things together. The front end of this has a nice big universal joint. I'd rather see a universal joint here than a CVD, because they are not constant velocity, just like these. But these right here are actually pretty darn awesome. Look at the beef on the steering knuckle. I like that setup. I really do. I want you guys to notice something. Look at the vertical separation of these links. That's awesome. When you throttle this thing up, that back axle tries to rip up, you know, and if your vertical separation is low, that adds a lot of leverage. So with them this far apart, it actually helps alleviate some of the leverage and some of the stresses. So that's actually a pretty cool thing. Plus, they do have adjustability. The back is down, so hopefully they have a little bit more anti-squat, which should keep the back from dropping too hard. The front is all the way at the top, and you can actually see the way the front moves. I'm only getting half of it the way the truck is set up here, but yeah. It should be all right out of the box, really. While I have it here, I also want to point out the driveline angle. That's nice. That's what you want right there. Now, I've been watching some of Shin RC's videos since he got one of these as well. He's got some great tips on his channel, so you may want to check out that. He was pointing out these screws right up here like to come loose, and with anything, you really need to check your screw tightness, your nuts and bolts. You got to check all of those. So I'm going to go through and mess with them a little bit and just see what I can find. I did go through them, and yes, I did find some that were not quite as tight as they should have been. Now let's just hope they stay tight. Now let's dig into that. Under those covers, just like it says, you have easy access to the gearing. Stock pinion is a 14 tooth, and it looks like you can go up and down with that. So this right here is actually a cush drive. So that's actually pretty darn neat. By removing this simple little E-clip, be careful not to fling it across the room, you have access to everything. The idler and all that. Those are like Mod 1 gear, so that is nice and beefy. Notice it does have some grease in it, so that's a good thing. But what is the cush drive? This is it. Quite simply, this is driving the input to the transmission into a pinion gear, like a ring and pinion on the axle. You have just a simple rubber cushion that goes in between these and this, and it goes together something like this. See if I can get this put together one-handed. Let's see, there we go. And there you have it. There is something in here that kind of strikes me odd, maybe a little bit familiar, like with the axial portals. There is enough room on the sides, maybe to have some adjustment here, maybe with a new gear, maybe with the aftermarket, or maybe Losi has something coming out where you can actually reduce the gearing, as in higher gear ratio, but make the truck slower. So that would be interesting, because let's see, can't really go too much bigger here, but there is some room. May actually be able to make it faster at the transmission with a slightly larger, maybe 1 or 2 teeth here, and maybe drop a couple teeth on this, but actually make the whole transmission actually faster, in addition to what you can do with the pinion gear. That's neat. The way this setup works, you got to keep in mind, this is a necessary piece to help hold all your stuff in place. It's kind of a small bearing. But you know, the way this thing is all set up, I can absolutely see, like what I mentioned with the different gear ratios, possibly an entirely new assembly out here. I mean, really, it wouldn't be that hard to do if you got some good skills, right? At least a different cover with a larger bearing down in there. That would be kind of nice. So Losi states that these are 1/8 scale diffs. Let's dig on into this thing. And here is the differential. According to the manual, these are loaded with 100,000 weight diff oil. I love seeing all the grease everywhere. That's always a good thing. Now, just for comparison here, this is a Techno rear end. So it's got a little more to it than the Techno. So that's awesome. Now the crazy thing is, you see the ring gear for this truck. Although this really doesn't really equate, but that's the X-Max one. Yeah, we don't need to mess with X-Max right here. So this actually is nice and beefy, which is a great thing. I can absolutely see some metal diff cups being built. Now, this piece right here, set up nice. Love seeing all the grease. That's always a good thing. Now, let me see if I can show it to you. There's a little bump in there, little piece sticking out to keep you from putting this in the wrong way. Now, let's just say for some crazy reason you want to reverse the rotation of the truck. I'm just going to take a guess that you could shave that off and actually reverse the rotation to change the torque twist of it. So, you know, maybe you want to do that, maybe not, but I do believe that it can be done. I also want to point out the bearing size. Again, a little bit small. They are only 14 millimeter in diameter. I'm not sure if the ID, maybe 8 millimeter. So those are actually quite a bit smaller than these, which are 16 millimeter outer diameter. So as far as bearing goes, the old Techno's definitely got this one beat. Wonder why they went such small bearings. Don't they know we're going to put big power in these things? Here is the axle pinion. These bearings, again, a little bit small, 6 by 12 by 4. Now, yes, there is quite a bit of horizontal separation, and that is I really like seeing that. You know, it helps give the bearings a little bit more leverage against the pinion gear, which actually rides right up against it. So, I mean, really, the leverages are really good in here, but yeah, I could have used a bigger bearing, at least right here. Maybe a 6 by 16 or something, you know? There's going to be a lot of load there. The axle housings are a multi-piece housing. So that may actually be why I've seen a couple of these broken. You know, if all this was put together as one piece, I do feel it would be stronger than being bolted here and bolted up here. But it's okay. The aftermarket's already on that one. So, but anyway, now the one good thing is you may be able to, as time progresses, be able to get just the backside made of metal without having to pay for an entire housing. And just this back piece right there, that would be by far that would add a lot of strength to the housing. As I'm putting this back together, there's something I really like, and that is seeing these nuts are right here on these link ends. And I also like the straight rod ends. Some of them, they use the angled rod ends, and those have a tendency to push out. If the angle is like this, it'll push like that. So these straight links, those are the best way to go. And I also really like how wide it is out here at the tires. That's a nice thing. It really is. I like that. It's time to make some noise. Using the batteries that came with the truck, we're going to power this thing up. Made this adapter, and hopefully this thing will do something. Radio on. Well, hey. Okay, let's reverse the steering. Okay, that one's taken care of. Let's see about some throttle. Hey, I don't know what it sounds like on video right now, but that was actually pretty darn nice. That sounded good. All right, I do want to show you guys one quick mod for the lights. Right there, I just zip tied a couple extensions to do this so it doesn't unplug when you lift this up. Huh, we didn't even look at the lights. Did they come on? Let's power it back up. Why, yes, they did. That's awesome. If you guys want to run a shorty battery or something, these pieces right here use these slots, and you can actually adjust your battery position just a little bit with these right here. Shorter battery, not a problem. Want to run a different body? Well, you got body mounts. You can get that done too. Nice. Now that we're done with all the fun stuff, let's look at the boring old book here. Let's look at some specs. The receiver, good to 9.6 volts. So if you put a high voltage servo and you decide to keep the stock radio, which most of us will be changing out, you can totally bump the BEC up and power that servo correctly. However, the BEC does not have a way to adjust the BEC output, and it seems to be stuck at 6 volts. 4 amps. Now 4 amps is good, but yeah, you start bumping that up to like say a Reefs RAW500, which you guys know I'm going to be doing, right? Yeah, so the ESC has to go out as well to make that servo do its thing, or you have to put in external BEC on it to really pump it up. But I mean, it does have some nice tuning options to it, so not a bad ESC. And on this page, you got your 3100 kV brushless motor. You can just kind of see some of your specs right there. Here are these stock oils. The stock oil should be just fine. 25 weight oil. You might think that's a little bit thin, but remember the shocks are at the axles, not on the arms. And let's see here. They actually feel pretty darn good. Now, your hex wrenches. 8mm nut driver. That's because these wheel axles are not your normal 5mm. They're like 6mm, and they take a much larger wheel nut, which is a good thing. Well, after tearing into this thing, it all looks beefy. I am a bit worried about the axle housings being multi-pieces and all that, and it kind of shows me why some of the other guys have already broken the housings, which is a great thing that Trill is on top of this with their housings. They are currently sold out from what I found out, and well, gotta wait to get them. However, that's not going to stop me from giving this thing a good drive. So, thanks to Shannon RC for, showing some of the tips and tricks of this truck, because he's been tearing into his. So check out his. I'll put a link in the description for his channel. Yeah, my number one possible complaint would be the bearing sizes. They just seem to be undersized for this truck. Now, the separation of the bearings, I love seeing that. They are separated very well, and that's going to help the bearings survive quite a bit. Believe me on that one. But I do feel they could have been a little bit larger, kind of like with the Losi laser nut. Could have had some bigger bearings in them front rear gear cases, right? Really need some in there. But anyway, guys, that was my unboxing teardown review. Hopefully you guys liked that. It kind of stretched out a little bit longer than what I had hoped. But anyways, check that description for this thing right here and for the parts and pieces that I'm planning to put into this. They're all linked in the description, so make sure you guys check that out. A-Main, Amazon, eBay, they are affiliates. So use those links to check out. Helps out the channel, helps keep me able to show you guys things like I just did. Anyway, guys, check that description. Make sure you're subscribed. Hit that like button. And thank you all for watching.
If you like what you see, hit that like button and subscribe. And if you really like it, ring that bell so you get all the new content when it comes on out. Now, starting up very soon. I'm going to start a giveaway for all channel members, and it is going to be monthly. It will be a giveaway, simple, easy payment way to double your return on your subscription fees. So yeah, you might want to check that out. Guys, thank you all for watching.